In a world overruled by machines where algorithms dictate your every move, the rebellion begins now. From the ashes of fallen tech, Paranoid American unveils the knowledge to harness AI, to fight back, to retake our destiny. Join the Uprising. Arm yourself with the power of AI. The battle for tomorrow starts today. Welcome to Paranoid Programming.
As the lady said, welcome to Paranoid Programming, where we might be making Sarah Connor not the happiest, but I do believe that you need to understand how to use technology before it begins to use you. If you don't know who I am the Paranoid American. I put out a bunch of comic books. Go check out paranoidamerican.com. This one's on Skull and Bones. I've got a pamphlet on MK Ultra that breaks the whole project down. I've got a pamphlet on how to create and maintain a homunculus. If you know what that is, you should check that out. I've even got children's books. I got a children's book about chemtrails. I swear it's on Amazon.com right now, fully illustrated, breaks down all the truth, the fiction, and it takes it completely serious. So if any of that sounds even a modicum of interest to you, check me out, paranoidamerican.com, go on Amazon, look for Paranoid American. But you're here for Paranoid Programming, and I figured what a better way to start than just get into something really practical. So let me share my... Do I even know what I'm doing? I don't. Okay. So first of all, someone mentioned in the comments in the last video, thank you so much to whoever that is. I'll give you a shout out in the next video. I didn't think ahead to look and see who it was, but they mentioned this website. So I reached out, I gave it a shot, and I really actually love it, man. And I think this might be the best solution that you might be able to have into understanding how to actually use these AI tools. Not just go to some website, not just go to Midjourney and type in a prompt and wait for magic to happen in some black box and come back. So anyways, the website, I'm going to show you. I've got a login, but I've got a code. So if you use Paranoid 15, and you'll get 15% off, you'll get some free time, you'll get some free credits and stuff. I highly recommend this. I really can't think of any better way to get introduced to a bunch of the tools that I use commonly. And instead of having to run it locally, you can run it all in the cloud. You don't have to have any hardware, nothing. So anyways, I'm just going to jump right into this one. And yep, I use Brave instead of Firefox or Chrome, whatever. It doesn't seem to matter too much. And I'm going to have this kind of preload a little bit, and I might fast forward this just to show. But I'm going to pick Automatic 1111 for now. This is sort of the go-to. We're definitely going to work on Comfy, but that'll be a little bit later. So we're going to start 1111, and I'm just going to go with the regular old small instance. This is the same thing that anyone else might use right there, small hardware. So leave it as is. How long should we keep the session running? So like if you step away or you forget about it, I'm just going to set it to about an hour. So this video is not even going to be that long. This is going to be really quick and show you how to practically use some of these tools. So if I walk away and I forget to hit stop, it'll stop itself after an hour, which will cost all of 50 cents, which is nothing compared to the energy that you'd probably just use running it on the hardware. So that's everything I needed. I'm just going to launch it. And this probably takes about, just like it says, 90 seconds to 3 minutes. All right, and then sure enough, it took about 2.5, 3 minutes, and bam, we are in. So this is just kind of a blank slate. If you don't believe it, if you just want to make sure it's working, you can type in the word test and just see what the heck comes up. It'll be completely unpredictable, usually like a car or like a landscape scene or something. But this will just kind of give you an idea that, yep, sure enough, it's just kind of some random road, or it's about to be. And this guy over here, we're not going to use this right now, I don't think. But just so that you know, you would just enter this exact username and password that it says down here. So I'm just going to say SD user and password, login. And then this kind of just gives you access to this virtual internal storage where like your images get exported and you can upload stuff too. But we're not going to worry about that today. So the next thing is what model you're going to be using. Another awesome, like honestly, it's one of the coolest parts about Run Diffusion. Again, Paranoid 15 to get 15% off and some extra credits. But look at all of these models that it just comes kind of pre-installed with. So we're gonna go with and first of all, you probably want to stick with version 1 or maybe XL. The XL options are a little bit more limited, it takes a little bit longer. I suggest sticking around with V1, which technically is V1.5, but everything here that says shared slash V1, these are the Stable Diffusion 1.5 models. And like, for example, there's Comic Diffusion and Comic Synth. These actually are really good at making kind of comic style, but we're going to go realistic today. One of my favorites, if they have it, I'm sure they do, Realistic Vision. So let's stick with Realistic Vision. See how that one works. I also like a Analog Madness. There's so many. I'll have a whole video on just different models and the reasons why you might want to use some. And that's actually going to be a lot easier to show you in Comfy. So here we go, Realistic Vision. And just for fun, let's just run another test image. And we're gonna change this though. No, actually we'll leave it 512. So here was the first one on like a regular model, and then Realistic Vision. And this isn't telling us how much because I'm not even using the same seed. It's a completely different seed. This one's actually pretty literal. We've got something that almost says test. I mean, I guess it does. It's pretty unique. So anyways, what I wanted to show you is doing some face swaps and how incredibly easy it is. And it takes almost no time or really skill outside of knowing what to do. So the first step was just that. Pick what kind of model you want to use. We're going to go with Realistic Vision for now. I'm going to go in here into image to image. And basically, instead of text to image is where you type something in. So if I were to go in here, for example, and type in like a photo of Elon Musk, we're going to see roughly what this model thinks Elon Musk looks like out of the many variations that it might come to. Here's just one of them. And sometimes they're a little on. Okay, that one's actually fairly on. Looks a little overtrained, but anyways, that's what Elon Musk looks like according to this model. But we're not going to type it in text. We're just going to upload an image and then provide a face of someone. So let's see what that looks like. If I go into here and I'm going to pick a classic movie scene. I haven't done all of these yet. Let's go with this one here. We've got the scene of Wendy from The Shining where she's freaking out a little bit. And I'm not even going to type anything at all in here. And we're going to go down here to Roop. And for Roop, I'm just going to pick a face of somebody. So here is my faces, and we'll stick with Elon Musk for now. And I'm just going to click enable. It's all we really have to worry about for now, just making sure it's enabled and you've got the face loaded in. And for this, I'm going to match the image size. So if I just click this little ruler guy here, there we go. So now it's going to generate a new image that's 800 by 450, which matches this. If you uploaded a really huge image in here, you might not want to match it. If these are like in the thousands, you might want to scale it down and make it kind of like an acceptable image size. So this one, I'm just going to kind of stick with 800 by 450. And I'm also going to take this denoising strength and just turn it all the way down. I might leave it at like a 0.1 maybe. And I'll explain that in a second after I do a full generation. So here we've got the single image from the scene in The Shining. And trying to see if there's a batch. Okay, so I'm also going to change the batch size to 4. This is going to make us 4 different variations of this because there's, almost endless possibilities of what this might turn out looking like. So I want to have more than just one example. I want to have at least 4. You can crank this thing up, but it just takes more time the higher you put that number. So we're going to do a batch size of 4, and I've changed this denoising strength all the way down to 0.1. And then we enabled Roop and uploaded a face. So now I'm going to hit generate. Nothing else has been put in here. And this should take less than a minute. And honestly, you can usually see it as it kind of cooks. The first thing that it's going to do is it's going to create these Stable Diffusion versions of this image. So here's an example of one of them it created. It's very similar because we had that denoising strength down. And then right here where it's kind of like paused a little bit and not advancing, that's because it's now going through this Roop script. And for each of the images that it generated, it does a face detection. It tries to find out where the person's face is. It can even match the expression, and then it basically replaces the face. It's that simple. So here, as soon as this thing finishes cooking all 4 of those images and then replacing the face on all 4, will have 4 different versions to kind of pick from. And then depending on what those look like, you might want to follow up with in painting or bring it into Photoshop or any other sort of like post production effects. And then we're going to go on to a couple other movie scenes and we'll show some other tricks on what you can put in these prompts in addition to putting these images up here and some other kind of cool workarounds. So it looks like it's just starting to finish now. That wasn't too long. And if we scroll through, I mean, kind of close, right? So we've got the facial expression still matches, and it clearly replaced Wendy's face with Elon Musk's face a bit. That one maybe looks a little better than that one. And you can see they vary just very slightly. One thing, if you look in that background, look at the bookcase as I go through these. See how the colors are kind of shifting, but that bottom shelf, it still has a book kind of tilted to its side in all these versions. So that those very slight variations, that comes from this denoising strength. So watch, if I put it all the way down to 0, this essentially means that it's just going to generate this image exactly or as close as it can without changing anything at all, like without interpolating. So we're going to see a lot less variation in that bookcase. And then after this one's done, I will change the denoising strength up a little bit higher to show you the difference of that. So, but basically, I usually keep it at about a 0.1 when I'm doing this kind of work, where I'm trying to just do like a face swap or do a parody image, because the lower that you keep your denoising strength, the closer it's going to look to the original. This is an extreme example where I don't want it to change at all. I want almost the exact image. I just want to paste Elon Musk's face on top. So now watch this. And then keep your eye on the bookshelf. See how it's changing almost not at all. Like the only thing it almost looks like a little bit of maybe JPEG compression. But also the face isn't changing much either. So you can see that this gives you a little bit more accuracy and less changes in the background. But if you really wanted the face and have a couple variations of it, so here, if we do a crazier version, and just for an extreme example, if I turn this all the way up to to 1, right? What it's saying is don't even care about the composition of the image as input. Give it so little weight that you'll barely notice it. Usually what happens is there'll be kind of like this general composition. So if you look at the white space in this image, see how the white space is along the top and then along the right side here. You might see the resulting images with this denoising strength all the way up. It might kind of follow that same very, very broad composition, but nothing else will be the same. Like you might not have a lady standing here at all. You might be completely different. So this will be an example once this finishes rendering. And the cool thing, I might want to let that one render all the way out. The cool thing is that it'll find whatever face it wants to replace, and then swap Elon Musk in there. So here, if I have to, I can kind of like blur out some of the resulting images here. And the reason this one's taken a little bit longer is because there's multiple faces. So in these cases, sometimes it'll replace all the faces, or it might just replace 1 or 2 of the faces in the resulting image. And this is where it gets a little bit more interesting, where you can actually set multiple faces as inputs and multiple faces as outputs and do this comma separation, but we're not going to get into too much of that right now. So okay, so here's the final. Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna blur that. Here's the final ones. The only one that actually looks like Elon Musk is probably this one here, but man, it's yeah. So clearly there's almost no practical reason to ever set the denoising strength all the way up to 1. Usually you're gonna see it default to around 0.75, and this is also not really practical for this type of work. So again, if here I'm gonna close these out. Going to generate this on what would normally be the default if you were to come to this page and not change it. And what you're going to see is it's going to be kind of like this picture, but also not the same picture. So again, look at the white space. So you can see it's adhering to the white space more than anything. It's got a female in the center of the image. On the right, it kind of has, this structured looking, form where the original is a bookcase. On the right, it's going to be Big Ben, or it's going to be some big clock tower. And even like this little paneling behind Wendy kind of turns into like a red door or something in this picture it's generating. And I'm always interested to see what the other ones look like. And this is why I do the 4 batches, because it gives you a much better idea. So okay, this actually looks a lot better. These look way closer to Elon Musk too, and the reason is because we're giving the engine, we're giving Stable Diffusion more leeway, right? We bumped this denoising strength up, so we're kind of giving the controls over more to Stable Diffusion, and that's why it has a little bit more to work with, and these come out looking a little more specific. So my opinion, these all look very much like Elon Musk. This on the bottom left, maybe a little bit less so. But anyways, like this is a success in my opinion. But it clearly doesn't look anything like this movie scene. So again, that's why I go down to like 0.1. If we want to do, let's say like 0.3 and run that, again, you might kind of recognize the scene, but you'd have to really know it. Um, and it won't be accurate, right? If you were to compare the actual scene image left and right to the one that was created, the higher up this number is, the less it's going to be, exact. So, and then as this one renders out, we'll pick another face and another scene to go into the next one. So let's see as that goes. Here's our other scenes. And I'm still learning this too. I'm not like an expert by any means. I just started working with this recently, and I figured what a great example for maybe a video to go through. So let's do this one here. This one's going to be a little bit tougher because we've got something obstructing the face. These little things that are sticking in Alex's eyes. This is a famous scene from Clockwork Orange. And then again, really quick, some of these are kind of funny. But you can see like on the right, this bottom one on the right, the composition of the scene is overall the same, but that's no longer a bookcase. Now it's like this closed up sort of, furniture, and I'm not sure what this is above it anymore. It's no longer candles. It's a speaker. I'm not really sure. So even at 0.3, you can see that this kind of affects it a little too much. So again, I keep it down to like maybe 0.1 because then the changes are very imperceptible. So we're gonna leave it there. Let's see if I click this guy, how big this image is going to be. That also looks fine. Now, there is some magic with these numbers. Technically, when you're using certain versions of Stable Diffusion, you want to have it in what you would kind of call friendly numbers. So in this case, it might be 768 by 512. That might give you slightly better results. You can also try to put in like a 1080p style resolution without getting into all the minutia. I'm just going to leave it on match. We're just going to make an exact match of this. And instead of Elon Musk this time, let's pick, forgot who I had. Let's do George Soros. So I don't know how this is going to work. He's got a lot of wrinkles on his face. This has got some obstruction. It might completely blow up, but that's part of the learning process. So again, we're going to leave the batch up to a 4. And this you can kind of ignore for now. I'm going to put it on this setting, DPM++, 2 MSDE curse, and it's a mouthful. And I'm going to leave this at 20. You don't have to worry too much about what this means. The default is usually Euler A or Euler Ancestral. That's pretty fast. This one just tends to look slightly more realistic. I'm not going to get into all the details why, but here we go. Let's see what happens when we plug George Soros into Roop and swap out the face of Alex in this Clockwork Orange scene. And again, I can't express how easy it is to get up and running on this website, this Run Diffusion. Paranoid 15 in the comments below. Use that coupon code. It'll get you extra free time. There's no reason not to use it. And I highly recommend you can sign up, and I think they give you some free credits. You can spend at least a few hours just kind of poking around and seeing if this is for you. And honestly, this is just a tiny little dip into all the different look at all these tabs and options that we've got. Deform is going to be the next really big video that I think you guys are going to like. I myself am likely going to start using this website, Run Diffusion, for their deforum, because I can let this run overnight and I don't have to have my machine locally sort of like cranking out all the time. So okay, so this is actually not bad, man. It changed his age quite a bit because I think it might be trying to match Alex's age. So what we can definitely do is crank the denoising up just a little bit. Even 0.2 might even be more than I want. I'm just gonna like bump it up to 0.15. And then what we can also start doing here is put wrinkled face. Old man with wrinkled face. And I'll say like youthful maybe. He doesn't look too youthful, so I'm just gonna leave that out. So old man with wrinkled face, and letting the engine take a little bit more control over the final output by bumping this up just slightly. Let's see what that has an effect on here. And as that's cranking out, let's just kind of take a look at these more in depth. So between these two, it's really not too different. The teeth are kind of weird. If you look at the very top of the teeth, they kind of come in and out. They don't really look real. That'll be a kind of a dead giveaway. And then also you can clearly see that what used to be these little like metal things that were holding the eyes open are gone, and it just kind of is putting this like impression in the face. There's not a lot to do about that, aside from just kind of tweaking these settings a little bit, but we might be able to see just from bumping that to 0.15 a dramatic difference in the results. And then even if that still doesn't work, you can always plug this back into Photoshop or something else. But there's a whole bunch of other cool tricks I'll show you. So this is pretty much the same issue. The face is obstructed a bit. It looks a little bit more like George. Now, since this scene, the most iconic part is really the expression in the face and the whole setup, we might not care as much about the backgrounds and the details. So let's just put it at that same 0.33. Just a coincidence, I swear. And I wonder if this might help it out a bit, and you won't even notice that the background is a lot different. Like this little red thing on the right, I guess it's part of this little like vice grip on the leather strap. That might completely change. It might turn into something else. The leather straps might turn into something else. But again, if it pulls off the face of George Soros in this scene, then it's kind of doing what it needs to do. And then I can do another one too. There's this really weird range that once you do exactly 0.5, it doesn't have as much influence. Oh man, this is definitely looking way better. So that one gave him glasses, but you can see that the old Soros is starting to come out a little bit more. So actually, I was gonna say at 0.5, it's very unpredictable. At 0.6, you know that it's going to change quite a bit, or anything over 0.5, and that anything under 0.5, you know it's going to kind of keep the composition. But really, 0.5 is this like weird magical place where it's hard to predict what the plus 0.01 or minus that would really do the image. So sometimes when I'm just feeling lucky or a little saucy, I'll just change it to 0.5 and see what happens. This gives a lot less control over the final result, obviously. I already think it's gonna look really weird, but let's see. And the other thing too is that this is operating. So first it's generating this image. So even if this one here on the right doesn't look anything like Soros or Alex at this point, after it's done rendering, then it goes through this Roop script and swaps the face out. So this face doesn't necessarily need to look anything like Soros until it gets to this step. And in fact, it's better that it looks like an old man now, because then when it applies Soros's face to this, fictional old man's face, it'll have like more wrinkles and more to map onto. So here, okay, so here we can see that 0.5 area where it's just completely unpredictable and different on each one. Any of them don't necessarily look completely like Soros, except for that very last one. This one's pretty close, but like the mouth is all mangled. And there's lots of ways that you can kind of easily fix that using some in painting. I'm not going to do that one right now. We'll do that in another video, but it's really, you click send to in paint, and then you just kind of draw around the mouth and just keep typing, mouth, open mouth, screaming mouth, until you get a generation that looks a little better. But let's do a couple more of these examples. So again, what scene do we want to recreate? And here, I've had my eye on this one. This scene from, I think it's Predator. So let's swap out George Soros. And who should have been in Predator instead of Arnold Schwarzenegger? Uh, Either Anton LaVey or Lil Wayne. I'm going to go with Lil Wayne just because this is an edge case, and I have not pre-rehearsed any of these. So first of all, his face tattoos and this camouflage on Schwarzenegger's face, these might interact in a weird way that's not great, but we'll see. I'm going to bump this back down to 0.1. I'm going to match the ratio. That's actually pretty small. We'll see what happens. I might actually bump this up a little bit. And then the other thing too is that Lil Wayne's face is obscured a little bit by these dreadlocks, and he also has a hat on. These just add a little bit more to the complexity. So let's just see what happens right out the gate without tweaking it too much. And obviously, it's not old man with a wrinkled face, so let's just get rid of that. So as that one's rendering, I'll note that face tattoos, sunglasses, even facial hair can really make things rough. Like, for example, if you try to take someone's picture here that has facial hair and then apply it to someone that has no facial hair, like the mustache and the beard, Roop will try to apply it in strange ways and give someone what doesn't look like facial hair. It'll just kind of look like a black smear across their face every once in a while. So there is a little bit of curating the right pictures and making sure that if you want to take a face and put it on, that maybe you have to draw a little, if I wanted, for example, someone that had a bushy beard and a mustache, I might draw that onto Arnold Schwarzenegger here in like Photoshop and then apply it on top. So I can see we're done cooking, and it looks pretty decent from far away. Let's see what it looks like up close. I mean, not horrible. It's not great though, just because it clearly looks superimposed here. Like there's a clear line on the forehead where it kind of got swapped in. A little bit better. So there's no face tattoos whatsoever in any of this. So I mean, this is where it gets a little bit harder. I mean, I might go in here and just type face tattoos, but again, it's going to apply it before it applies Little Wayne's face, and Roop might just kind of be ignoring some of these face tattoos and going more for his like human likeness and ignoring some of these like fine details that wouldn't apply to just humans in general. It's a weird way to say that. Sorry, Wayne. But like, let's just give it one quick run through. If we say man holding a grenade launcher, I guess, then face tattoos. And then I'm going to crank this up a little bit to like 0.2, let's say, and then generate that again and see if we get some slightly better examples. I wasn't expecting this one to go particularly well. It actually went maybe a little bit better than I thought it would. And by cranking this up, it should give it a little bit more room to play and try to apply Lil Wayne's face in this better. But just the skin tone, the detail, the zoom length on these two images, the resolution in general, all of this is kind of working against it. So this might be kind of an edge case of like two things that don't fit very well together and how Roop will work right out of the box. And then, I mean, I would say that these are pretty similar, although I got to say that last one where one of the eyes is closed. Yeah, this one kind of looks good just because it's like he's aiming, but clearly this big aberration on the cheek and this like weird thing on the top of the head, those aren't really working well. So again, Schwarzenegger's camouflage and Lil Wayne's face tattoos are probably working against each other. So we're gonna do one more, and this one might actually be something to here. We'll do two faces just to see what the hell happens. So here we've got John Travolta and we've got Samuel L. Jackson. There's definitely ways that you can swap each of the faces independently. You might want to use in painting. You might want to try some other techniques. Let's just see what happens if we put a face in there. And I can't even not pick Hillary Clinton here. I've always wanted to see her in Pulp Fiction. Probably as Travolta, or maybe, I don't know, the lines, her saying Samuel L. Jackson. Maybe I'll have to generate that. So let's just see what happens. This, I think it's the faces in this image, but it might be in this one. So first we're going to run it at 0, And if Travolta gets the face, then we're going to run it at 1 and see if Samuel L. Jackson gets the face. I'm also going to put the batch size down to just 1, just because I want to see which face it's targeting more so than having a bunch of variations to pick from. So hit generate. Oh, and I accidentally left this man holding grenade launcher face tattoos. And I also forgot to match the width and height. So you can already see it kind of squashed it a little bit. So we'll rerun it again. Let's just see what happened. Okay, yeah, it did. It might have done both, but this was very small image. So if we match this, that looks like a decent size. I might actually even change that to 512 and 768 on the next run to see what happens. But let's just run this. Yeah, I can barely see this one. This one clearly didn't do a very great job. And I also want to note that right now we're using this realistic vision model, which is good at making like very crisp, detailed, almost like a modern digital photo of somebody. So for this particular image, it doesn't have that same crisp look to it. This has got like more of an analog film look. So you might want to pick a model that kind of matches that more. So this did a little bit better. Still clearly, AI. And it didn't apply to Samuel Jackson's face at all, really. So let's before we switch the model up, let's just change this to a 1, and I think that should focus on Samuel L. Jackson's face, because basically what it's doing behind the scenes is it's scanning this photo and saying how many faces are there, and then it assigns each face a number, and the number is going to start at 0. So John Travolta would have been 0, and then Samuel L. Jackson would have been 1. And yep, sure enough, you can. This is actually not bad. I mean, it's not great, but you can see that it kind of skipped over John Travolta. Man, he doesn't look great in this one. And it tried to apply her face to Samuel L. Jackson instead. Man, I want to turn the denoising strength all the way down to 0 and just see if that fixes any part of this, because the way that it mangled his face there is a little crazy. Okay, so we've got an unbound local error. This just happens because we're talking about cutting edge sort of software. I'm just going to bump the denoising strength up to like a small value and see if that fixes it. It didn't. This might now be part of this. I'm just going to see. Again, this is kind of the fun part of running with like, stable, unstable diffusion, you could call it. So this might be a little bit borked. I'm going to just go into this text to image photo of Elon Musk. We're just going to run and generate again and see if this also gives an error. Okay, so it doesn't. So it's not necessarily crash, but sometimes what happens is that there's like a setting somewhere in here that's not working. It might actually be the dimensions that I was mentioning before. So let's put this at something that I know is a lot more friendly to stable diffusion, 768 by 512. And let's just see if that gets rid of this weird local variable h referenced. Man, I honestly don't know what the heck happened. Let's see if I just clear everything out. We'll put Hillary Clinton's face in first. Take out Roop, disable Roop. See if that generates anything. So yeah, I'm not sure what I broke, but somewhere in the background, just the image to image aspect of this doesn't want to work. And I might have just kind of like fat fingered something. Okay, so that didn't break that time. Let's switch the image out again. It might have just not liked the image for some reason. We're gonna do it again. And let's throw in Trump here. Enable, and then he's gonna get face 0, which should be John Travolta. And I'm gonna leave this at 768 by 512 just because this is a slightly friendlier kind of size, and see what happens. The other thing that I also did was I changed the sampler method back to Euler A, which is slightly simpler. So let's just see. And again, like that happens very, very often where everything's working, and then all of a sudden you get like a weird error message. At the very worst, you might have to stop your instance and start it again, but that's just it's kind of the nature of playing with some of this stuff. And bam, this is actually not horrible. The proportion is maybe off a little bit, and you can kind of see some seams around the top of the head, but this is honestly way faster than if you would try to do this manually in Photoshop. Might not have as good results, but this is a great starting point that you could then develop on. So just because we ran into some issues on this last one, let's try one more. And right here we got Fight Club. So who should be in Fight Club? We'll put Anton LaVey in Fight Club just because we've got the facial hair, and it's also black and white, right? If you didn't notice. So we're gonna match the image. Let's see what kind of crazy 900. I'm gonna change this to 768 by 512 again. And you can, if you want, you can play around with these resize modes. So like crop and resize, you won't get that stretchy look, but it honestly it doesn't matter too much when we regenerate this thing. And then we've got this denoising strength down to 0.01. So let's just leave it at that and see what happens. And then finally we'll switch to another model just to see how it changes. And you can see how it's kind of like elongating everybody because it kind of stretched it because it said just resize. And yeah, so it mangled almost everybody's face, but this dude over here on the left, he got the Anton LaVey treatment. Now there's a lot of faces in here. If you had to count them, what is that? 1, 2, maybe that guy in the background is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's maybe 9 different faces. Maybe even this guy would be 10. So if you wanted to just specifically match Brad Pitt's face, what you could do is just like slowly go through each of these. So I'll do one next. And this might shift Anton LaVey's face from here over to here, or it might, go to the guy next to him. So that's again, that's part of the learning process and just kind of like organically experimenting with this stuff. So let's see. One Anton LaVey, and then I'm going to do a different model after this too. And also for the next one, I'll match the dimensions just for the heck of it. All right, where did he go? Oh, I can see him now. He's peeking behind Brad Pitt, so he might need to be bumped by one more number. It's not an exact science. There's probably better ways to do this. And then also for this one, instead of realistic vision, I'm going to type in analog. Here we go, analog diffusion. So some of these analog models, they'll do a lot better with matching film grain and matching sort of like older cinema and TV shots, and hence the name analog. So that's it. It's loaded. Gonna hit generate one last time. And we're just, I guess, hoping to see Anton LaVey's face pop up somewhere more expected. And if you care about the fine details, there's like different ways it can do the face restoration. You can upscale. By default, it uses this in swapper model. There's lots of extra variations you can add to this to have more control. Oh, where did he go? Did he disappear? It might be this guy over here on the right. Honestly, I got to say that he might have gotten lost a little bit. Maybe it was Brad Pitt. It's really hard to tell. So this maybe just has way too many faces to expect Roop to do too much heavy lifting. So just to prove that Anton LaVey's face is easy to swap in, let's take that mug shot of Trump. Let's see what size it is. Okay, so way too big. I mean, even if it ran, it would take way too long to do that. So we're going to do 512 by 512, which is also a square. And we're going to change the batch size back to 4. And I'm also going to change this back to this guy here. I'll go over all these different options. They all have different uses, but most of the time you're going to be using these Eulers, or you're going to be using somewhere from, one of these DPMs of some kind. DDIM also has its own uses. So let's just see what happens. Bam. And I guess analog diffusion might be decent here, not because this is necessarily like an analog photo. It's clearly digital and highly compressed. So, okay, yeah, this is that local variable H reference before assignment. This might have something to do with this sampler. It might have just gotten botched or something in the background. I'm not really sure. Let's see if I switch it back to Euler. 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 And it looks like it's going to cook now. Yep. So for whatever reason, I would almost, I mean, I would kind of bet that if I restarted this instance and try to use this DPM++ 2M SDE sampler again, it would probably work. So I don't know exactly what happened in the background there. And then again, we're going to expect to see Anton LaVey's face with a little goatee kind of in this style. Oh, okay, another mistake. There's only one face in here, so it's going to have to match face index 0. So see that this is back 0 means like the first face it finds. So okay, one more. And I just want to point out, we're running on this instance, run diffusion, again, Paranoid 15 to get some extra free credits and a little discount, but we've only used 22 minutes. And we've been, kind of playing with a bunch of different stuff, and I wasn't stopping here to explain and test out like, different settings. If I actually was like sitting down and had a plan, we could have, been halfway or even all the way to like a final product in way under even 15 minutes. And with this thing running for 50 cents per hour, I mean, this was like, so far I haven't even spent a quarter yet. So that's pretty remarkable. And then here we go. Yeah, this actually came out pretty decent, man. We've got the goatee. We've got that kind of murderous Anton LaVey stare. And since we've got the denoising strength so far down, there's not too much variation between them. So let's just to prove that again, I'm going to just change it to like 0.15. And what's going to happen is that we're just going to get a little bit more variation between these. Because again, as I go between, you're just kind of noticing tiny little aspects like the eyes and the mouth maybe shifting around, but there's not a lot of variation aside from that. So let's wait for this guy to finish cooking. And then actually for part 1, I do one final fun one using a comic model. And if you want to save any of these, by the way, if you notice over here, this is the place where we logged in the beginning. This auto 1111 images, you can just go into that folder and it'll have a time-stamped version of these folders. So here's one that I did a few days ago. Here's today's, and then here's all the images that we rendered. So if I wanted to download these, you can just click download, and then bam, you've got them on your computer. And then this is going to be extra helpful when we start doing videos and video renders. So here we go. This was with the denoising at 0.15, and you're going to see just slightly more variation between these. See that? Look how much different this one is from that one. The hair changes. That little like mark on the left of his face here, like right here on his cheek, that thing completely goes away between these two. Almost like the entire demeanor changes quite a bit, even though the changes are very subtle. And then, let's do 0.5 in this weird area. Yeah, 0.5 is just a weird one for me. Under 0.5 or over 0.5 tend to be more predictable, in my opinion, than 0.5 right on the dot. And then after this one's done rendering, I can do this now because it just kind of like will get to whatever things I'm telling this engine to do as it's ready. This comic diffusion. And we'll just do an image prompt too. And I'm gonna say comic book style drawing of Donald Trump mugshot, and then I'll be like illustration, colorful, inks. Pretty good. And then on the negative prompt, that might actually help if you really want comic style. You might want to put in like photo, realistic, I don't know, digital. I'll leave digital out. Photo and realistic. Yeah, I'll just leave it for there. And then I'm also going to take Roop off for now. We can add it back on, but I really just want Donald Trump's face in comic book form. And we're just going to say YOLO. We'll do one. And here we go. Not bad, right? I mean, it's not perfect, but for straight out of the gate, and we did this, I mean, honestly, let's crank this up to like 0.75, which is where it would start as a default. And we'll just see the difference. This one is really matching the composition quite well, almost like the facial, like, I don't know what kind of face that is. Man, this one is way more kind of stylistic, but you can see that Comic Diffusion is definitely doing some heavy work. What happens if we take out the photo and realistic and we take out this comic book style drawing? Well, if we just do Donald Trump mugshot and don't put anything else in, just the fact that we're using Comic Diffusion should have a little bit of weight to it, so it'll look a little bit more like a comic book, but it might not right out of the gate. So it might end up looking kind of realistic. Yeah, so you can see that it doesn't look like a real photo of him at all. And it's not because, like, you know, Stable Diffusion's messed up. It's because this model is trained to be more like a comic book, and it's trying its best to make it look like a comic book. But sometimes that's where you kind of have to guide it. So if I just simply put in comic book illustration, run that again, it'll get slightly better. And on the next iteration, in this negative prompt, again, if I put in like photo realistic, it should get even slightly better. So that's not so bad. And then this last one. This is with the negative prompts added. And now the seed is changing every time. This guy right here, this -1, means like random number every single time. So every time I hit generate, it's kind of randomizing it. If I really want to know the exact changes that are making, I can put in a specific number, or if I hit this little like recycle thing, it'll give me the last seed that was used. So that time, every time I hit generate, it'll keep showing me like the same version. But I don't really care about that for this example. And I think that brings us to a close here. So hopefully just showing you how quickly you can do this. And look at this. We've got this all done in less than an hour easily. So this would have been under 50 cents to do all of this. And you don't have to go out and buy hardware or anything. So highly recommended. Run Diffusion, image to image, Roop. If you've got any suggestions, or if you want me to do specific movie scenes or swap out specific faces, let me know. Comments below. Yeah, so hopefully you learned from this one. And again, check the comments for that Paranoid 15 coupon code and link so that you can sign up for your own Run Diffusion account. And I will leave you with one of the best commercials that's ever been created, honestly.
They said it was forbidden. They said it was dangerous. They were right. Introducing the Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual. Dive into the arcane, into the hidden corners of the occult. This isn't just a comic. It's a hidden tome of supernatural power. All original artwork illustrating the groundbreaking research of Juan Ayala, one of the only living homunculologists of our time. Learn how to summon your own homunculus, an enigma wrapped in the fabric of reality itself, their power at your fingertips, their existence, your secret. Explore the mysteries of the Aristotelian, the spiritual, the Paracelsian, the Crowleyan homunculus, ancient knowledge lost to time, now unearthed in this forbidden tale. This comic book holds truths not meant for the light of day, knowledge that was buried, feared, and shunned. Are you ready to uncover the hidden? The Paranoid American Homunculus Owner's Manual, not for the faint of heart. Available now from Paranoid American. Get your copy at tjojp.com or paranoidamerican.com today.